So the mage called grabs his new ring of power, mulls for a second on the pointless extra bits of plastic to make it look like his mask, figures that isn't worth mentioning, and then runs off for a rematch, for which he does not have to run far because Phoenix Wrong is now in the hospital for reals, and he's causing all kinds of high school bully level harm to people. That's for not getting out of my way, guy in a wheelchair on the other side of the hall. And you, nurse trying to run in the opposite direction. Is there no end to the obstacles in my path? Do you know what they call a bird in a hospital? What? Nothing. They just say, oh god, the blood won't come out of the walls. Here, let me show you. Shabadooby-tachi-heichi. And now you shall see my new powers, which I maybe should have tested beforehand. Shabadooby, nothing happening. After I get this to work. Ha ha ha, sorry, Broser, but I'm not gonna give you a chance to— Time, I'm calling time. The mage called wizard calls time then, freezing time so he can psychonaut into his own brain, because he's evidently able to do that. Inside Bizzle's noodle, our astral projection called the mage called wizard sees a younger version of himself grieving his parents. Pretty despair driving, right? The sight of your younger pussy self through a terrible green screen. That, of course, was the voice of Robosmaug, MC Wizzle's inner robot dragon / funky phantom. Within MC Wizzle's mind, of course, he has now taken the form of MC Wizzle's double, presumably as a measure to avoid paying his robot dragon animators. That's animators who both are and exclusively animate robot dragons. We've been through this, Puff. You're not driving me to despair. Are you sure? And do you have to call me that? Yes and yes. Well, fine. Then you can take my power, but it'll drive you to despair eventually. Technically Satan's power, but I'm not arguing with someone who's taken a motorcycle up his ass. Time in. Time resumes then, or rather it never stopped, but that's a whole other time spindler-like explanation. So the mage called wizard makes successful use of his new magical bling. Shabadooby-tachi, double henshin. Big reveal time for MC Whistle's upgraded form, which is a cheap-looking color-inverted version of his costume. Oh, but now there's the plastic head of Robosmaug on his chest, doubtless to funnel all kinds of evil dragon stuff. To show us what kind of stuff, MC Whistles pulls out not one, but 2 gun blades. So now that trick's twice as effective as when it had no effect on Phoenix Wrong. And now MC Whistles remembers the ring which wouldn't work without a storyline. Figuring that bringing it out a couple times is close enough to that, he tries it and it works. Working predictably to make Robosmaug's head jump out of MC Whistle's chest and breathe fire. But in spite of that move being tried and played, it works. That is, it succeeds in violently melting the Phoenix. Wah! How the hell did that even work? Wait, is this how the magma guys felt all this time? Oh man, I should go easier on them. Blah. And so now the Phoenix is dead. I'm sorry, fans of Birdman who leave their mouths hanging open all the time, but you've just gotta accept that he's dead now, and that's final for everything. Speaking of, we ramp down to a conclusion now, with the Whiz Kids briefly mulling on the fate of Doo-Doo Lad and his comatose parents. But fear not, for before that's taken too far, with any of those unimportant side characters getting another line in, the Whiz Kids realize that the arc has come to a close, and so they don't have to pretend to care anymore. Instead, they all just unbuckle. Meanwhile, double conclusionally, we go to Gorgonzilla acting smug, because she seems to think it's a big reveal that Phoenix Wrong comes back to life after being killed. It is not. And that was the arc, my thoughts. I'm calling it now. The whole series is Agatha's dream. Oh, and I also skipped a scene where it reveals that the unpainted Rat Bat belonged to Gandalf the White, who gave MC Whistles his powers. Huh? Sorry, when I sleep, scorpions come out of my mouth. Next time, the Mage's Cage, the bondage crisis. Else it's the Mage's Cage, the actor Nick Cage in bondage again. Until then, good night, and Gargoyles the Goliath Chronicles.